What's up, everyone? I am Ernest Dove of the Dove Report. Let's get back to what I love and do best, hopefully, judgment aside. Let's get to some player interviews from the New York Mets organization. Today, I have one of the hottest pitchers, whether you've heard of him or not, you will now. He's one of the hottest pitchers in the Mets organization. Today, my guest is 22-year-old right-handed pitcher Garrett Stratton. Garrett, how are you, my friend?
Doing great. How are you, Ernest?
I'm doing good, man. I know I've been talking about you a little bit online, so now I'm pretty excited to get to talk to the man that I've been talking about behind his back. I'm curious, want to get into some of your stuff, the stats, everything else. But I always, and then again, like we said off air. So anyway, he pitched for this school called Rice, which is technically like a rival of mine at FAU, and we're both Owls. So I guess in a way we're rivals, but maybe good enough for the Owl pride. Uh, I want to start it off, Garrett. If you can go ahead and basically introduce yourself to the fans out there, maybe talk about some of your history, your background, and even just in general, what got you into baseball.
Yeah, well, I'm Garrett Stratton, as you mentioned. Now I'm a 22-year-old right-handed pitcher for the Mets, but was born in Houston. Kind of grew up just around baseball. My family always loved it. Nobody in my family really played baseball at a high level, but it was just always something that like we loved to watch. I got into it early, and then we moved from Houston when I was 7 or 8 to like very rural Missouri. We lived there for like 10 years, and then we moved back to Houston um, around the time I was starting high school. So for my freshman year was my first year um, back in Houston, and then went to high school in Houston, loved it, had a pretty good high school career, and then got the opportunity to go to Rice, stay home. And I was always like pretty academic, so
Hmm.
it was a good fit for me. And then yeah, I went to Rice, had a like really just a great 3 years. Like I loved every minute of it. And then yeah, I was lucky enough to get drafted, and now I'm here.
And I'm always curious about this. Again, too, he's a 20th round pick, ladies and gentlemen. So that's right at the end. So I'm definitely curious, even some of your thoughts and feelings about getting drafted into pro ball and what was that experience like for you? Maybe even playing the waiting game, not knowing, like what was that like for you all the way up into when you got selected?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't just a 20th rounder, but I was actually just the third to last pick of the entire draft. So basically like the end of the 20th round. So yeah, definitely, you sit through the whole draft. So but yeah, the experience was like sort of surreal. Very few times in your life is there like as much of a change that can happen in the span of like a few hours that you have no control over as the MLB draft. It's like, well, either I get drafted, I'm going to, one of these 30 spring training spots, and that's where I'll be for the next couple months. Or, if I didn't get drafted, I was going to go to Notre Dame for a graduate year. So obviously that was on the table too. And I was obviously, ecstatic to do either one. I was hoping I'd get drafted, but yeah, it definitely takes a lot of discipline just to kind of accept the fact that I don't have a whole lot of control over this anymore. And I hope it works out, but I'll just make the best out of whichever of these two things happens. And yeah, I was actually, since I was going to Notre Dame for graduate school, I was actually in like online classes I had to do for the grad program I was going to do there. So I was literally sitting in these like online Zoom accounting classes, and I'm like watching the draft on my computer and just like listening to class. And sure enough, by the time that um, my classes has ended was when like my phone really started blowing up, and it was different teams, trying to see sort of like what I needed to sign. And so I was able to handle that, and then sat and watched the last few rounds of the draft and came down to the wire, but worked out.
Yeah, I know you were like the buzzer beater, man. And hey, you
Hmm.
know what? Very lucky for the Mets so far, so good. Before I get into some of the small stats and stuff that you've been doing really well in Brooklyn and now for Double A for the Rumble Ponies. But before I get into that, if you could even kind of discuss a little bit about your arsenal of pitches and how you are on the mound.
Yeah, my arsenal is it's pretty straightforward. It's a very like vertical mix, so I don't have to like change it much versus lefties or righties because it's just, very up and down. But
Mm.
it's a four seam fastball. And then off of that I'll throw a cutter. So it's kind of like, up and then a little bit here. I guess
Mhm.
maybe mirrored for you, but
Mhm.
I so move a little bit to the glove side and then I throw is it a curveball? Is it a slider? I suppose it's kind of beauty's in the eye of the beholder. So I let people come up with their own opinion, but it's a breaking ball. It's hard and it's a downer. So it's either a short curveball or kind of a big vertical slider.
Oh, so that's it's a slurve, I think, is what. Yeah, it's one of the
Mhm.
extra terms for it.
Yeah.
And again, it's working really well for you. Let me get a few of the stats. You began the year in Brooklyn in High A, 2.73 ERA, 29 and two thirds, and 44 strikeouts. So this is a K rate guy right off the bat. I mean, is that your thing? Are you a swing and miss guy? Because it's definitely showing up in pro ball.
Yeah, well, honestly, this was one thing that, kind of held me back in college and made me wait the entire draft before I heard my name called. But I think teams always sure could look at the data and see that I had like the underlying ability to get to just a really nasty breaking ball shape. And I just wasn't in college. Despite the fact that, in college, my breaking ball, the shape wasn't very good. I spun it really hard and it wasn't very hard either. But you could sort of look at the way I threw my fastball and the way I threw my cutter. And it was just very clear, like, okay, I have the ability to throw pitches really hard that spin in kind of like this general way. So sort of the first thing we talked about when I got in to the Mets organization was, okay, we got to overhaul this breaking ball. And we feel like there's a lot of different ways we can take it. We can sort of go for like more of a sweeper, so it'd be more of like a, big glove side pitch, or what we really wanted was sort of the big just downer. And we call it a death ball. That's kind of our internal name for like that shape.
Mhm.
And yeah, I was able to get to it. It took some work. We had to work through some different grips, and then maybe there was like a grip where, okay, this is the shape we were wanting, but like I don't think I'm going to be able to command this.
Mhm.
And then sure enough, by the time I threw my first pen in spring training, we made sort of a final tweak that got me to the grip and sort of the cue that I'm using right now. And yeah, it's been a huge success for me.
I mean, that's for sure. And let me bring it up then. As far as the pitch command, in Brooklyn, you had a lot of dominating outings, obviously high K rate, and it looks like the walk rate was up a tad. Then all of a sudden, you got promoted to the show me level of double A, kind of the nickname of double A. You've had about nine appearances, and you've decided, now I don't feel like throwing anything outside of the strike zone anymore. So, okay, small sample size, but since your promotion to double A, your walk rate has dipped to, well, zero, because you haven't walked anyone. But there's my jinx. I apologize in advance. But has there been any even form of in-game, obviously, in-season kind of mechanics adjustments where now, since this promotion, your pitch command overall seems to be even better than ever?
Yeah, I think it's more than anything. I think it's just we're sort of starting to get the dividends of, work that we started 6 or 8 weeks ago.
Mhm.
Um, as I mentioned earlier, like when I was coming into spring training, our number one priority was, okay, like we know that there are just nasty pitches sort of like in the tank here, and we've got to figure out, what we need to do and what I need to be thinking and how I need to be holding the ball to get to those shapes. And then obviously like you want to throw the ball harder. So that was one thing we've been working on. Like how do I move my body better? And obviously, when you throw harder, everything is better. So
Mhm.
um it really was just a shift in focus. And I think once we had success with, okay, I'm moving better, I'm throwing harder, the ball's moving the way we want it to, we know that like this is a recipe that'll have success, not just in low A or high A, but we think in the big leagues, as long as we can get in the zone,
Mhm.
okay, now let's figure out like, okay, how do we harness this? And, the way that kind of looks in your day to day is, let's say it's, I'm throwing before the game. So it's really where you're getting your practice in the season. So, do my throwing, get loose, whatever. And then, I'm sort of very particular in the way that I like to do my pregame throwing. So like I like to touch the mound if I'm available for the game, no matter what. So I'll go and touch the mound and we're not like blowing smoke or anything. We're keeping it sort of uh, doable, so
Mhm.
manageable, so I can still perform.
Mhm.
But in the past, whereas it would have been like, okay, let's get the track man out, let's figure out, okay, how that pitch move, is that what we wanted to? Because that was what we were working on, 3 months ago. So that was what I was concerned about.
Mm.
But now, it's really just pretty simple. It's like, all right, 0-0, let's throw a strike here. Okay. There we go. Let's strike 0-1. Okay, let's do another one. Okay, 0-2. And then I work, two hitters, sometimes three, and that's my work. So now my work has just been very strike focused. That's been true for probably 2 months now. And I think sort of at the beginning, like anything, the progress is slow, but I think over time it's got a lot better.
And your progress in player development seems to be going pretty fast, very quickly. And I know even again, stats wise, 2.73 in Brooklyn in 9 appearances, 1.86 in Double A. I mean, obviously, you always want to get better, even at the higher levels, but it doesn't always really seem that easy. What is your experience from your perspective now, going from Rice to High A, and now at the show me level of Double A, going from High A to Double A? Like, what kind of is there a transition at all besides the stats that are even better? What is the experience like, even the opposing hitters, along with the analytics and game planning? But have you noticed a big shift or any kind of focus difference between the two levels?
Yeah, well, one thing that's been nice for me was like as I said, I think in spring training, coming out of spring training, we're like, man, like this is a mix that like we don't need to keep tweaking with. Like we know that like this will play to both sides, and we can look at the data and say that like this will get outs at the highest level. So we know what to get outs in high A, we know what to get outs in double A. So because of that, like we did move to more of a strike throwing focus.
Hmm.
And I think just sort of like, from my perspective, I think double A hitters are better, but ultimately, like I've been better about doing what I need to do. I know that when I throw my stuff in the zone, I'm going to have success. So um, I think, if you just keep doing that, I feel like right now, it doesn't really matter whether it's double A or triple A or whoever. So um, yeah, I think, if I had to point out one thing I think double A hitters are a little better at, I think they're better with two strikes. So I think in high A, if I got two strikes, I wasn't super, discriminate about where this pitch needed to be. I just knew like, all right, let's just throw something nasty and either he'll, miss it or maybe he'll take it for a strike. Whereas in double A, I think they have a better approach when it gets 0-2, 1-2. And, if I throw one that, for example, my breaking ball, it's kind of a downer. So like if I throw one that starts below the zone, finishes even more below the zone, probably not getting a swing in double A. Whereas in high A, I think you maybe have guys, more on their toes a little bit and guessing. But yeah, that'd be one thing. But I mean, ultimately, I think like right now, if I keep filling it up, that's probably what my success is going to come down to.
And hey, I mean, it's been very consistent so far. So this is exciting, everybody. This we all you fellow Mets prospect junkies out there, like myself, you now know a lot more about Garrett Stratton, who may be kind of moving up very quick. And I wanted to ask too, because I know like in spring in Major League camp, there was a lot of chess playing going on and all that. And it's been a while since I've asked a minor league prospect about the grind. So even in those things, and maybe a stereotype of what some of the players do in Brooklyn out there in the little Ferris wheel type stuff, but what are some of the stuff that you guys have been doing from Brooklyn and now in your time in Binghamton?
Yeah, I mean, if there's one thing that, we have, and it's plenty of time at the field. So you've got to figure out, something to do between the time we show up and just in the downtime before the game starts. So in high A, we played a lot of a game called Exploding Kittens. It's like a card game, and it's kind of like it's almost kind of like Russian roulette. Like you're trying to not draw a certain card, and you have your own kind of cards in your hand, and you can play them to like avoid drawing or like shuffle the deck and whatnot. So we played that like, I mean, religiously. Like it was probably like an hour a day in Brooklyn, and like the games got intense. In Binghamton, Exploding Kittens hasn't, taken a foothold yet. I'm working on it. But right now we play poker. I'm not really much of a poker player, so I sit and watch. I'll play solitaire sometimes, but um, yeah, so it's Exploding Kittens is sort of the thing that gets us through in Brooklyn, and then mostly poker or traditional card games in double A.
It's a little bit different than chess, but still very, very intellectual, I'm sure, and all that.
I'm not sure exploding kittens is too intellectual, honestly, but poker definitely is. Those guys are thinking, and there's a lot of planning and strategic thinking going on there. So
Yeah, I'm a big no limit guy, and but I had to stop for many different obvious reasons. Even when I was in Los Angeles, that wasn't a good idea playing out there. Whew. So yeah, anyway, as we kind of finish up here in the interview, I want to bring the floor back to you. If you want to give any kind of praise, shout outs, even personal or professional in the Mets organization, this is your time to even let them shine. Shine a light on the people that have helped you get to where you are.
yeah, I mean, was hoping you'd give me an opportunity to do this because I mean, as you said, I was a 20th rounder, and I've been lucky to have a lot of success here in kind of my first full year of pro ball. And I mean, I think that's like without a doubt due to just the Mets organization as a whole and all they've done for me. I think just kind of like knowing all that's transpired in the last 6 or 12 months now, I guess, I'm just extremely, extremely grateful. And I mean, I think I'm almost hesitant to say a name because like I've been lucky enough to meet a lot of great people, all of whom have like invested in me in a lot of different ways. Um, but if I had to say one, I'm actually it's funny enough. I think Jonah Tong gives this guy a lot of credit too, but Garrett Baker is actually our FCL pitching coach. So I've never actually been on his team. But when I came in after the draft, he was sort of like my primary touch point. And he worked with me sort of like what we're allowed to do when I was at home in the off season. But I gave him a lot of credit for helping me find my new breaking ball. And uh, I mean, obviously, without that, like I don't think I would have had all the success that I've had in the last, I guess, couple months in season, and then have made the progress that I made over the last year. So, extremely grateful to Garrett Baker. Easy to remember his name. Obviously, we have the same first name, but um, yeah, he's kind of a wizard. So I think he's really great. And I mean, yeah, but really, it's just like it's. I feel like I'm kind of like a product really of just a great organization. I feel like whether it's the strength and conditioning program, like I've gotten stronger, I'm throwing harder. I feel like um, that's part them. I feel like it's part Kyle Rogers, our minor league pitching coordinator, who has worked a lot with me on sort of the way I'm moving and helping me getting to move better. I stayed healthy, which is obviously like credit to our PTs. And I'm throwing more strikes, which is sort of a credit to all of our pitching coaches, really, because I've worked with our FCL pitching coach, and then I was in high A with Luis Alvarado. Now I'm in double A with Matt Harris City. So um, yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm just sort of just very grateful because lots of people have invested in me at a lot of different junctures. So
And that's what I've been saying a lot too online about there's a lot of communication up and down the New York Mets farm system. And even when I've communicated, gotten information, and you have pitching coaches like now Major League Assistant Pitching Coach Dan McKinney, and he'll work with pitchers even from FCL level, low ball level pitchers. These guys get a lot of experience working with everyone, even in camps and in off seasons. So this is how some of this player development really, truly works. It's an absolute pleasure being able to talk to you getting some of this information. And you heard it, folks. Player development, coaching, it is working in the Mets organization. Things have been slow this year. There are other guys like Garrett Stratton quietly thriving with some of the changes. A lot of positive things, more to come. Hopefully, that includes my channel on the Dove Report. But thank you again, Garrett, for being on the interview here today. It was a pleasure talking to you. And I guess, hey guys, continue to support the channel. Uh, Let me know anything else in the comments, other kind of interviews you want to get to. But otherwise, thank you guys so much for everything. I'm out.